Hey guys, Barry Magadidi here, back for this episode of the Comeback Game podcast. Today, I've got Tolman, mate. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good. Doing well. So, mate, for the listeners and viewers out here, I'd love you to kind of share a bit more about you and what particular it is that you do. You were just sharing that you're actually in Bali at the moment, running an event, which is pretty cool. We've known each other for a little while, and you're a bit of a more challenging fish to catch, but we're here now. So I want to provide the most amount of value for the people that are watching. So I'd love if you just share a little bit more about what it is that you do and the mission that you guys are on.
Yeah, so we've created a brand called Heal Thyself. So my goal is to find the greatest methods on the planet of how we can actually heal ourselves. I've run a clinical fasting retreat in Bali, Indonesia for many years, at which, one time we were running 4 per year. It's a 30-day program consisting of, some pretty intense modalities of detoxification, particularly a 21-day water fast, sun juice fasting, whole foods, chiropractic, osteopathic, network, chiropractic, cranial sacral work, reflexology, energy healing, releasing, breath work, anything that I've been able to access where it's something that has the potential to clear like trauma mentally and emotionally, or clear physical blockage within the body, or add value towards healing ourselves. And I attracted mostly people with cancer. So, I had a lot of stage 4 lymphoma, liver tumors, colon cancer, breast cancer, skin cancer. But we got a lot of people with Lyme disease, heart disease, diabetes, not so much, but a few, type 1 and type 2 diabetics. So that's been an evolutionary experience. And it's not like, I'm not the type of person that's like, I have the method and I know the way and this is what you got to do. It's more like, what are the methods that can create healing, and let's bring those methods together. I am a big proponent for water only fasting and juice fasting and intermittent fasting. My research, mostly what I research and am passionate about, is ancient Egypt. And there's a lot of information that comes out of ancient Egypt that most people probably aren't aware of. A lot of people are inspired by Egypt, but they don't know much about it. But we do have physician manuals that have been translated, that have been brought back, and they did fasting, they did digestive cleansing, they did colonics. They had, physicians, men and women, that traveled around the world and healed kings and queens and all that good sort of stuff. So yeah, I run programs based on, my real love is evolution of the human experience, mentally, emotionally, physically, socially, financially, and spiritually. And my ultimate goal is human immortality. So, just right up front, putting it all out there. I don't really care what anybody thinks. That's me. I'm all about evolution in as many ways as possible, looking at regenerating my body, teaching other people how to heal, foundational principles and simplicity as well. I think that the most profound things are simple. And I think because the most profound things are simple from a health perspective, they get overlooked. And so people don't do the basics, and then that's why they end up getting sick and fatigued and yada, yada, yada. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight up front. And I'm happy to go into more history of my father and where I come from and all that, if you like.
Yeah, I think what you share too, like, it's not just simplicity of health. I think life in general, like we're moving so fast these days with so much noise out there. It's becoming increasingly difficult for us to kind of cut through the noise and get back to the core. And I think that in many ways, there's definitely insights in history. Like why specifically like Egypt is where you've brought a lot of this information from?
Because, most people aren't aware, but the Egyptians were the most advanced civilization of all time. And so they already had it figured out. you know, for example, with all the laser technology and diamond plated drills and saws and building technology, we couldn't build a pyramid. In fact, like even using laser technology and steel beams, which are pretty straight, you know, the largest monuments we built trying to do it correctly are still off radically more than the Great Pyramid at Giza, and they're a lot smaller. So it's like, you know, there's some brilliance and wisdom and technology that existed thousands and thousands of years ago. And what we actually know about ancient Egypt is mostly false. You know, we're taught that the Great Pyramids were built some 5,000 years ago by Cheops. This is complete nonsense. And there are people who are onto it, you know, Graham Hancock and a bunch of these guys that are out there, you know, looking at the dating of the weathering on the Sphinx and saying, actually, this thing looks, you know, based on geological records and how this, you know, limestone and everything is degrading, it's got to be at least 10,000 years old. So then they're like, you know, the current, you know, status quo is definitely wrong, but they're just going on information of geological research and some carbon dating. And now that they found Göbekli Tepe and some of these other places that are known, documented pre 10, 12,000 years ago, that are still just as sophisticated as far as the cutting of stones and the way it's placed together. The truth is, you know, real ancient Egypt, the real civilization when it was at its epicenter was long, 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 long before what we're told. And there have been records that have been discovered that have profound information about how to heal ourselves, how to regenerate. You know, we're more than just a physical body. We have energy body and it works in certain ways. And there's specific exercises and things that we can do to build this electromagnetic energy they referred to as Sekem energy and concentrate it to regenerate our organs. They talk about the senses that we have as human beings. There's 12 cranial nerves off of the brain. And if you did a little research on Google, you can see the 12 cranial nerves are a major part of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But that's only 5 senses. There's 12 cranial nerves. So there's actually 12 senses. And it's like, oh, we hear about it like a 6th sense, intuition. Okay, you know, we all know we have this kind of gut feeling, intuition around things. Well, what about imagination? If I say, you know, imagine a 12-foot monkey with a purple shirt on, you know, flinging some poo at you, you can see it. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's a sense. Imagination is a sense. Ideas and thought is a sense. There are higher senses beyond this, but first we have to perfect the basic senses. And so there's actual exercises that can enhance these senses and take us to, you know, this is probably too much too quick, but it's like, you know, we have abilities beyond what we've been told. And most people are just trying to keep their sense of sight and smell and hearing, you know what I mean? They're going deaf, they're going blind. And it's because we're packing ourselves full of garbage, artificial colors and sweeteners and preservatives and dead foods, lifeless drinks, polluted air, relationships all around us. Again, yeah, running, but we're really just hopping in circles. People think they're smashing it in life, and they're really just high on coffee and hopping in circles, acting and thinking like they're getting something done. So yeah, maybe there's some basic, simple, foundational things that if we would observe them on a daily basis, could start to ground us back into real time.
Yeah. What do you think it's going to take for this to become mainstream? Because, you know, we're talking about these basic senses, you know, smell, touch, sight, etc. And as you shared, they're foundational. Yet there's a much higher vibration that has us tap into that intuition, imagination, you know, that creativity that really allows us to tap into life at a whole nother level. You know, what's it going to take for this to start to move into mainstream? Because, you know, we are in existence or in society in such a way that, you know, you look at what the Chinese are doing to replicate vegetables now. They're creating these, you know, genetically modified fruits and vegetables. Not even that, they're printing lettuce, right? That shit can't be good for you.
Of course. Yeah, humans can't mimic nature. We can't even make a single seed. That's, we think that, our geneticists and scientists are so advanced. We're not. We can genetically modify a seed, but we can't make a seed. We can't make a tree. Like, you have to take an existing tree and you can manipulate the genetics, but we don't even really know what we're doing. So we're kind of just jumbling around, pretending like we know a lot of stuff, and we just made some genetically modified food that can resist some bugs. It's like, okay, great. And what does that do in your colon? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think your question, how do we reach the masses, is the way we reach the masses is from a simplistic perspective of, what do the longest lived cultures do? Hey, who wants to have more energy? Hey, who wants to lose weight? Who would rather not have cancer? Who would like to avoid heart disease? Who's already had a heart attack? Okay, what can we do to mitigate not dying early? This is what the masses are attracted to. So when I go out to the masses, I do something called the Tolman Longevity Tour, and it's all about longevity. Okay, so here's, my banner. It's like, hey, did you know there's maybe 7 really long-lived cultures that are mainly free from cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, which are the main killers and fastest growing chronic diseases in society today. Yeah. And then people are like, oh yeah, maybe if we kind of mimic what the longest lived cultures do, we can live longer, right? Yeah. And that actually is the simple foundation that will bring about a situation of, more mental clarity, more energy, a little bit of inspiration, and maybe some give you enough secret sauce that you can start to think on these higher levels and research things, think for yourself, and start to evolve. So those things look like, all the long-lived cultures, what do they have in common? They all breathe clean air. They breathe quite deeply. They move a little bit slower. They all drink a certain amount of water and hydrate themselves. They're all kind of out in the sun most of the time. All the longest lived cultures walk a lot. Most of them about 5 miles a day. So they're doing a lot of walking. Walking is amazing for getting rid of depression, anxiety, activating the digestive system, and so much more. And, now there's a lot of science around, walking and a dose, related response to cancer and heart disease and things like this. So this is what I teach: air, water, sunshine, exercise, whole foods. All the longest lived cultures on the planet eat a plant-based diet. Okay, that doesn't mean they're vegan, doesn't mean they're vegetarian, but they eat mostly plants most of the time. A lot of them, do some form of caloric restriction. So, most of the long-lived cultures, they have people beyond 100. Okinawa, Japan has the oldest women over 100. Ikaria, Greece has the oldest men over 100. Their caloric intake is between 14 and 1600 calories a day, which for Western society, that's like half of what most people eat, right? So it's like right there, it's like, oh, what do I do? And it's like, you could get 1600 calories in one meal because of what we eat: highly processed, high fat, very concentrated, cooked, dead animals and fried oils and things of this nature. Yeah. So, it's like, oh, that's not very much food. How am I going to survive? How am I going to be able to perform and be an athlete or a bodybuilder? There's these, belief systems. Oh, if I don't eat 5,000 calories, I can't be an Olympian. And it's just completely false. And there are people that are Olympians that are eating very little, but they're few and far between. In fact, the strongest man on the planet, literally the strongest man, can lift more pound for pound than anyone else, only eats 1 meal a day. And it is completely plant-based. And it's probably, 16 to 1400 calories. It's like, what? And the guy's absolutely ripped and he's onto it, and he's a scientist, he's a PhD in public health. And, his main master's was, human longevity and just reading science about human longevity, gerontological research. And he believes, he knows he'll live to be 150 as long as he's not hit by a bus.
What we see though, you know, it's a generalization. However, typically as human beings, we're driven more away from pain than we are towards pleasure. And, you know, so it's often that we're not driven to, as a majority, we're not driven towards longevity from a place of pursuit of longevity. We're driven from a place of pain, whether it's been the heart attacks, diabetes, cancers, and blah, 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 blah. Like, how do we really help to create that mindset shift in such a way that has people driven more towards pleasure from a place of, hey, my health is kind of okay, but I want it to be even better, right? And the aspects that can bring, rather than, you know, because you would see a lot of your clients, I could imagine, would be people that have had the cancers and the diabetes and, you know,
driven by pain.
Driven by pain.
Yeah. So what's the question?
How do we shift this? Like, you've been studying this for a long time. Like, surely you've noticed in people that have had a shift without having to go through the pain.
Yeah. These are people that are highly conscious, already consciously evolved beings. So, you know, from an ancient Egyptian perspective, once again, we have human beings that are born into this world that are little humans, kind of like, you know, there's 7 different types. But in general, if I could just say, there's little humans that are very new to this human experience on this planet, and they're very new, and so they're just here. They don't really know what's going on. They're just kind of they're driven by pleasure. That's it. You know, they want to seek pleasure and enjoy and figure it out. And you know, when we just seek pleasure, then we create a lot of pain. So, you know, it can be a good thing. They get a lot of pleasure and do all the pleasurable stuff. And then all of a sudden they start to experience a lot of pain, and then they have a massive shift, and then they start to evolve. And all of that is good. You know, why take away someone's experience, a journey of, you know, killing themselves? Let them kill themselves. And eventually they'll come around, whether it's this life or another, we'll figure it out. Like, a lot of people are driven now by the facts that we're destroying the planet, you know, and we're, you know, what's the real shit part is if you start to understand, if people could come to the consciousness that, oh, maybe I could live to be 150. Oh, maybe I could live to be 1,000 years old. If we could take on that, if you could literally sit in, I'm going to live for 1,000 years. If you could park yourself there, everything changes. Yeah. Now everything you do affects me because I'm gonna be here in 1,000 years. I have to put up with the pollution and the disease and the raping, robbing, and pillaging of my planet. This is my planet. I'm gonna be here a long time. I would rather stay here for 1,000 years. Yeah, eventually I can piss off and go find another planet somewhere that's beautiful. But you know, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe this is my home. So everything shifts. All of a sudden it's like, wow, what creates the most waste? Okay, I need to look at my diet. I need to look at what I'm consuming and what I'm doing on a daily basis, because that's where most of the waste comes in, is because people are consuming all the time. And every time you consume, it's plastic, it's paper, it's transportation, it's all of these different things. And what if we actually need so much less than what we actually have been told? What if we actually need very little? And if we actually live by that very little, we have a lot more energy, we have a lot more health, we have a lot more consciousness, vitality. I now have the ability to create business and to manifest on a level way beyond what I could ever possibly understand. Literally, what's happening is people are medicating themselves, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacking, suppressing, and they're so fucking tired and suppressed, they don't even know it. Oh, I feel good, and yeah, I'm optimal, and look at what I'm doing. But okay, great. You can still smash it. You can still, you know, there's people living that way, medicating themselves 3 to 5 times a day and still multimillionaires and multi-billionaires. But where could they be if they actually knew the optimal system? Because passion can overcome, you know, many things. You can smoke cigarettes, eat hot dogs, never exercise, have complete relationships, but you're so passionate because something's happened to you in your life and you're so driven, you can do anything and it doesn't affect you to a degree.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
take that same passionate person, you put them on the right lifestyle, bang, you better look out. Like that person's going to the moon.
Boom. So, so where did your passion come from for optimizing human potential? You know, before we do, like, I remember years ago, like, God, man, I reckon it was 15 years ago, someone gave me a Don Tolman CD. There might have even been a cassette. I'm pretty sure it was a CD.
Yeah.
And I listened to this guy talk about like the triangles and the three different parts and sacred geometry, and, you know, broke down cancers to be like things to do with pipes and blockages in pipes and kinks in pipes and
Tubes. Yeah.
tubes. I was blown away because it was explained in such a way that back then, like, I was a lot younger than I am now, it made sense. Like, it actually made logical sense. Where did the passion rise from for you?
Okay, so if I'm honest, which I choose to be now, I've been doing this for many lifetimes. And I know who I was and what I've been doing. And, you know, my purpose here is human ascension. Okay, and I keep coming back to help with this process of evolution. So it's my mission. It just is. I was born into this world knowing who I was and looking around at people who didn't. You know, and it was sad to me, you know, and I had to, you know, go through my own processes and everything. And I'm not pretending like I was enlightened. Definitely wasn't enlightened, but I knew more who I was, and I was in touch with what I wanted, and I was very in tune with my body and everything around me. And so it was easier for me to evolve because when I hear truth, I just know it. And instead of hearing truth and knowing it, being like, yeah, that's cool, I actually do something about it. I'm like, oh, you know, yeah, it makes sense that drinking a certain amount of water is probably good for your health. And hey, if there's some science for it, I actually do it. Okay. Hey, you know, it makes sense that walking is good for you. And I actually do it. Hey, it makes sense that getting into the sun's actually, you know, our body has like solar panels and it charges us and we need the sun and it's good for us. So I actually plan and make time to go out and be in it. It makes sense to me that fresh fruit growing from a tree is what we're meant to eat. Banana fits perfectly into my hand. It's got a little pop tab on it. You know, it perfectly goes into my throat hole. It's got, you know, all the basic foundational building blocks of what I need. You know, it mimics mother's milk, almost the same percentages of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in a frickin' banana. So what if that's an optimal food? And most people don't think like this. And if I give my body optimal food, what's going to happen to my ability to think, my ability to feel, my ability to, you know, do everything better? So I wouldn't say I had like a trauma or a pain or a moment in my life that sparked a passion.
Not this life, anyway.
Yeah. I came in already knowing, and then once I figured out, oh, this is who I am and this is who I was, and then I could research these people that were doing these things and read everything that they were doing, and it reminded me of who I was and, you know, set me on this path. I would say that my father, Don Tolman, he's the one, you know, all the books you read, the body's a system of tubes, and this is how cancer works, this is how the body works, this is how we have to keep the tubes free flowing. The biggest tube is the digestive system, which, you know, affects every other tube of the body the most profoundly. Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say I was raised with my mother. For the first 13 years of my life, it was standard traditional American. So I went to public school, I ate hot dogs, I ate pizza, I drank the, you know, the crap, cooked, you know, dead animal pus, milk. I drank the Kool-Aid. You know, I had everything they gave me. I was lucky enough that I never had vaccinations. So I am an organic human. That's nice to know. But even if you're not an organic human, yeah, you know, I was organically raised without the vaccinations, but, you know, I ate the shit food and everything else. And we can all detox ourselves from these heavy metals and these things that have been put into our bodies, or the things that we put into our own bodies. And at the age of 13, I went to stay with my dad. So my dad had left and went on his own trip and journey and mission before I was born. So, I was raised traditional standard American, but my mom was a little bit healthier. She didn't allow soda pop. She made most of the food from scratch. She didn't buy white bread. She bought the brown bread. Slightly better, but occasionally we went to McDonald's. We ate our fair share of chicken and beef and pork and things, occasionally. So at 13 years of age, I flew out to stay one summer with my father, and he was like glowing. And I don't say that from a perspective of like, he was radiant. He was fucking glowing, man. Like literally. And it wasn't just me. There was like people in the airport like, holy shit, who's this? This guy's like glowing, like trying to approach him just walking through the airport. And I had an older brother. I wasn't just high on drugs. My older brother saw the same thing, and he was 2.5 years older than me, and like, wow. So my dad was at a time in his life where he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights on water. He had done that 5 times over a series of 5 years. He was like pushing, the limits of the human experience, doing some, photographic memory, traveling around the country, known as the memory man of America, and was into health and was inspired and traveling the world and reading ancient texts and doing some pretty interesting stuff. So when I went there, he was running fasting programs, and I went from standard American diet lifestyle, public schooling, complete shithouse, into like, oh wow, living on a 200-acre farm, peacocks, swans, ducks, people coming to him to like learn from him and fast. And I was sitting back like, wow, this is my dad. Hey, good to meet you, Dad. This is what you do. And so I was a sponge. I shut my mouth. I observed, I drank his Kool-Aid, which is fresh squeezed juices off of the trees and out of the garden. And I just absorbed. And then I went back and lived my American lifestyle for another school year. And then I went back for summer, and I did that for multiple years, each time kind of picking up more. And like when I was living with my mom, I was smoking cigarettes, I was drinking, I was smoking weed, I was doing stupid shit. And then I'd go live this other life where it was like, drinking juice, detoxification. And this was my life for like 4 or 5 years in a row. And then my dad kind of lost everything, had a midlife crisis, and then he moved away and everything kind of changed. But that was like the main, like, oh, here's the light. There is light, right? There is such a thing, and we have to choose it. So, I lived my American lifestyle, did my drugs, ate my hamburgers for a few more years, and then became highly depressed, suicidal. And yeah, I did have a moment of like, shit, if I want to live, it needs to be around this guy over here, because that's the only thing I know that's good. And I called my father when I was 16 and said, if I can't live with you, I'm not sure if I want to at all. And he said, man, I've been waiting a long time for you to say that. And I went out and lived with him. And then I built businesses with my father and fully supported and sang his praises and networked to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across the United States to spread the message of fruits and vegetables and fasting and this sort of thing. And we built multi-million-dollar businesses together. And my dad's, creator genius and a fucking horrible businessman. So, once we're making millions of dollars and, have the good life, he loses it all. And that happened twice.
Yeah. Well,
and I was in the wake of that.
Well, the most successful business owners in the world, there's always two parties. The one that you see at the front, which is the visionary, the creator, and often absolutely freaking hopeless at running a business. And then there's the person at the back end that's kind of running along, keeping everything pulled together. Totally. When was it that you made a switch to kind of move forward on your own and really kind of dominate in the space that you've been in with the Heal Thyself brand?
Yeah, so I'd say, building a multi-million-dollar successful business and then watching it be taken away overnight and literally fired. And it's like, what? This is me and my dad's business. How can you just tell me to leave? But then I started to understand, how things work. So, that was a big thing. And I just went and got a regular job, lived a regular life for a while, which is nice too, actually. Working, I'd worked in the parks, I washed cars, I worked in a casino, I worked concrete. I've done every job you could possibly imagine. And believe it or not, I actually enjoyed every job that I had and did. But I knew it was limited time-wise because of who I am. And then I went and did that process again, built another big business with my father. And this time, like, he was completely ousted and they wanted me to stick around. And I did for a little while, but then I just realized, like, they pretty much just hijacked my dad's business and it's not energetically okay. So you guys can go fuck yourselves. And then I left, went out on my own. And I met this beautiful woman named Rachelle Starr. She came from Australia. She actually came to America to work with my dad, and then we hit it off. And my dad was just very into doing his presentations and what he was doing in Australia with a company called Fortune Events. So they're putting on events. He makes good money. He gets to do what he does. He can just be passionate, doesn't have to do all the groundwork and the business stuff. It was a win-win situation. So, Rachelle came to the States. We got together, and my passion was health, but I wasn't doing it for work. I lived it, but I wasn't doing it for work. And she's like, well, when are you going to get back into that? And I'm like, well, now, I guess. So we went and, started making some food called Pulse. It's an ancient food that's like perfect ratio of nuts and seeds and dried roots and things for strength and health and cleaning your clacker and all this sort of stuff. So we started making this food and packaging it, went to California on nothing, like this, old beat up car with no money. And we stayed with a friend, pretty much like sleeping on the beach style. But I'm a very passionate person. So I would go to a little place called the Aura Shop in Santa Monica and do little presentations for 5, 10, 15 people, just put up little flyers at health food stores. And that's where it began. And every time I got a group of 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 people, a certain percentage of people would buy this 30-day cleanse kit, and they were very inspired. And whatever I sell, I do really well at, because I'm a very convincing individual and it's coming from a place of truth.
Yeah.
So people would buy these packages and give me enough money to do a little bit more, then get my own place. And then, so we were building this brand, and it was just kind of like off the cuff. Oh, what should we call this? Et cetera, et cetera. And, I wanted it to be a 50-50 partnership with my dad, but I wanted to have control this time, because he always had control and that never worked out. And he just wasn't interested. He was just like, look, you guys do what you want to do, use and do whatever you want. I'm going to do my thing over here. And we're like, okay, cool. So we just decided, okay, well, let's, me and my wife, 50-50 partnership. She's an absolute weapon when it comes to business and organization and managing teams and all the stuff that you need. I have not the drive to do. I do have some of those skills, but it's just not my function, right? So then we created Heal Thyself, because that's what it is. People are healing themselves. And we created programs, products, colon cleanse, which is the most important thing we can do every single month. Ancient Egyptians spent 3 days every month digestive cleansing to keep things moving. And then we had the product, the Pulse that I was talking about, the food product. And then we started to develop like Heal Thyself greens, little sachet of the perfect kind of greens to give you every nutrient that you need in an easily assimilable way. And then we decided we moved to Australia. So that's where my dad was doing most of the stuff. And Fortune Events, the same company my dad worked for, wanted me to go on tour and sell a juice fast. Because I was always talking about fasting, because that was my main experience with my father of healing. If you fast, you heal the fastest. Yeah. So I was always talking about it, and they're like, well, dude, why don't you just start doing it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a professional. And they're like, well, you'll figure it out if you just do it, right? I was like, okay. So they took me on tour, and I sold 20 or 30 people into a juice fast. I ran my first one at Glasshouse Mountains Eco Lodge on the Sunshine Coast of Australia. And it was amazing. And, it forced me to do a lot more research and learn about detoxification. I already knew a lot, but it forced me to really get clear about specific protocols for defecation, urination, perspiration, respiration, cleaning the skin, cleaning the bowels, researching, the greatest masters of fasting and what they did and how to do it safely. And it was just a juice fast. So the truth is they're still getting 1,000 to 1,500 calories by drinking 2 to 3 liters of juice a day. And yeah, we made it a lot of fun, hiking, you know, adventure, education. Yeah, and it was a bit of a shit show because it was the first time, but nobody knew. It was amazing. And the rest is history. And that was like, you know, 9 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've been running like, you know, probably 4 to 6 to 10 programs per year, and still researching and learning by doing. And then eventually there came a need for major disease, which wasn't my focus in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just like, let's just get healthy, let's evolve, let's clean ourselves out. If you got fatigue, if you're backed up, if you got little issues, you can heal yourself. And then it moved into, you know, so many people were coming to me with cancer, heart disease, Lyme disease, skin conditions, you name it, autoimmune conditions. And so I realized, shit, there really is a need to extend this process. So I created a 90-day program, and that was very effective. I hired a fasting doctor from the United States to come out and monitor people, check their bloods, check their urine, monitor all their vital signs, etc. And we watched people heal from colon, liver cancer, stage 4 lymphomas, no medical treatment or intervention whatsoever. I've got lists, and this is all clinically documented, blood tests from day 1 till the end. You know, spontaneous remission is what they call it when they go back to their oncologist. They no longer have cancer. Spontaneous remission, spontaneous remission, spontaneous remission. And of course, these people have to continue, you know, living the right lifestyle, you know, to keep the process, to keep healing. You know, some people do, some people don't. Most of the people have had enough pain in their life that they end up completely transforming and living and doing it. And it doesn't work for everybody, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically. Like, there's so much to disease. Like, you really need to approach it from a holistic approach. But I believe what we are doing is the most effective. And I would put money on it that doesn't matter what disease you have. If you were to do this program, you could track your blood tests and your scans, and it's more effective than probably anything I've ever found, or anything I've seen anybody talk about. So yeah, I'm pretty confident, as you can see. I'm pretty confident that I've found some methods that are the most powerful methods for healing and detoxification and transformation. And the individuals have to be, you know, all in, which, you know, the program eventually was $30,000 USD and 90 days of your time. So they were pretty committed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
and the results are just incredible. Absolutely incredible. It comes back to what you said before, though, and the body's unique ability to heal thyself, provided it's given the right conditions, internally, externally. Yeah.
Yes. And those conditions are so far removed from what most people think. Most people think, I'm sick, what do I have to put in? What do I have to inject into me to get rid of it? And it's the opposite. It's what you need to stop putting in.
Yeah.
And it's like, literally, the less you do, like, the body just heals itself. You just got to get out of the way.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. Like, what do you kind of feel, or whether you share your own kind of diet and, you know, health regime, what do you feel is a good diet? Like, we're no doubt a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs watching, listening to this right now, that are in that space where they're dealing with high stress environments, large teams, they're hustling hard, they're probably burning the candle at both ends. What do you feel is a good balanced diet, both internally and externally, in terms of what you're ingesting and what you're also doing externally, exercise, yoga, sun, so forth? Yeah.
So first and foremost, any level of intermittent fasting is going to improve everything immediately. Because if you narrow your food window, you optimize your body's ability to detoxify from whatever you put in. You know, and there's so many fad diets and things that can appear to be very beneficial up front for the first 6 months to a year. And then you're going to start to run into major issues, especially around like a 2-year mark. You know, so I go by the longest lived cultures because they're proof in the pudding. They've been around for thousands of years. They're still doing it. There's, a wealth of documentation around it. If people are interested, there's universities from the United States, gerontological researchers that traveled the world and did the research with no agenda, just like what do the longest lived cultures do? It's called the Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. And he documented, how are their relationships? What's their social construct? How much exercise do they get? What kind of water are they drinking? What kind of foods are they putting in, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe it's the most optimal, and it's the way I live my life. But first and foremost, I would say, if you start to realize that breakfast, lunch, and dinner is just a construct that was created to get you to buy more, because then the corporations make more money, especially Kellogg Corporation. Breakfast of Champions, that's an advertisement. Breakfast of Champions and eating your Wheaties was an advertisement to sell product. It wasn't a nutritional board that came out and said, hey, breakfast is the most important meal. It was a corporation trying to sell their breakfast cereals.
Yeah.
So let's just get that, figured out straight away. And if you want to eat breakfast, fine, that's great. But reducing the window of which we eat, what it does is it promotes and allows optimal assimilation of nutrition. Insulin sensitivity goes up, which means you handle and deal with sugars better. Protein utilization goes up, which means you can eat less protein and get a lot more out of it. Our ability to digest food, everything is enhanced. All of the enzymes the body produces, everything is enhanced when we give the body a break daily. And the nice thing is, I was spouting this stuff before anybody even coined a word, intermittent fasting. It was just, nobody knew about this, but now it's a day and age where there is a lot of science and there's athletes doing it, and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon now. It doesn't matter what diet you eat, everybody's doing a form of intermittent fasting because it is profound. And I would say whatever diet you choose, if you do intermittent fasting, you'll be healthier. But we probably should load ourselves with some antioxidants and some nutrition. And nutrition comes from plants, period. Comes from plants. So, in my opinion, fresh fruits growing on the trees are the highest antioxidants. They hydrate the system. They prepare the digestive system. They protect our bodies from everything. They're our immune builders. They're the cleansers of the lymphatic system and the kidneys and everything else. So I eat a lot of fruit first. Breakfast is fruit. It's breaking the fast. It's hydrating. It's amazing. And when you're really hungry, fruit is orgasmic. I live in Bali. I have fresh papayas off of my tree, fresh mangoes off of my trees, rambutans, jackfruit, all the most amazing things that when you're hungry, they taste good, they hydrate, they give us all the high nutrition. I could also juice it. I could juice it and really get radical concentrated nutrition as well. So that's what my breakfast looks like. And my breakfast looks like that at about 12 o'clock. I really don't get hungry typically till 1 or 2. So sometimes I'll wait till 1 o'clock, 1:30. And then I have my first meal, which I don't actually consider it a meal. I don't consider fruit a meal. I consider that fast food. It moves fast through the digestive system. It's fast because I can just grab it and eat it. That's the real fast food. It's grab it and eat it. That's it. Nothing. There's no mess, no cleanup, no shit, no preparation. Peel and eat, shove in face, chew and swallow. So I eat a fair amount of fruit. The amount of fruit would probably scare most people. We live in a society day and age where people think that fruit causes cancer. And if that was the truth, I'd be riddled with cancer because I eat a lot of fruit. Then I do have one kind of main meal a day. I might snack on some veggies, carrot sticks, celery sticks, hummus, dips, nuts and seeds, dried fruits, pulse type of situation, whatever, mostly raw until dinner. And then at dinner time, I'm eating plant-based, cooked, amazing meals. And, that's Chef Cynthia Louise. We got all these people here in Bali right now. That's what they're doing right now. They're literally at this program with Chef Cynthia Louise, cutting up all the plant-based foods, making pasta, making Mexican food, yesterday we had all Italian food, amazing. Then we'll do Mexican food, then they'll do Indonesian food, then they'll do whatever, Chinese, Japanese, sushi, this, that, and it is all absolutely orgasmic, the most beautiful food you've ever tasted on the planet. There's no lack of anything here. You know, most people that, oh, got to eat healthy, it's not going to taste good. No, you don't get it. You know, eat some of Chef Cynthia's recipes. You don't need the shit because it's, you know, she's making plant-based pizzas that are brilliant with nut cheeses and things that you can't even understand. If you've never tasted it, there's a lot of doubt, but once you taste it, everything changes. Yeah. So I'm having jackfruit enchiladas. I'm having spaghetti bolognese. I'm having, you know, all these beautiful foods, but they're made from scratch and they're plant-based, and it's actually a lot easier than what most people think.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah. Fruit for breakfast, plant-based for dinner, within about a 6-hour window, sorted.
And water
juices,
too.
Whatever. Lots of water. 1 liter of water per 22 kilograms of body weight per day.
Yeah.
There's a scientist by the name of Dr. Batman Gulagi. I call him Dr. Batman. Iranian scientist who wrote a book, You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. And there's a lot of truth in it. And he's done all the science. We need about 1 liter per 22 kilograms of body weight per day. I weigh about 83 kilos. I drink 4 liters of water a day. If I drink a liter of juice, that can replace one of those waters, but not coffee, not tea. Those things can be dehydrating. Still okay to have. Not Kool-Aid. Exactly. No processed shit sugar.
Yeah.
Nah. Processed sugar is no good.
Yeah. Mate, so many value bombs. For the guys out there watching and listening, like, any last things that you feel inspired to share today?
Nope. Go for a walk, drink some water, eat some fruits and vegetables, clean your clacker, have a good shit. If you're not shitting well, you're going to have some major shit build up and create some disease. So it really comes back to simplicity. If you drink water and go for a walk, you've got the hydration you need. Every morning, drink water, go for a walk, you have a good shit. And that eliminates most of yesterday's shit. Have a good sweat, sit in the sauna, exercise till you sweat. You know, if you don't like exercise, sit in the sauna. Deep breathing exercises, you know, whatever movement, like, I like to keep it simple, just go for a walk. For thousands of years, we've woke up, gone for a walk to a water source, bathe in it, drink it, you know, walk back home. And, you know, that's health 101. Drink water, go for a walk. If you want to have a coffee, great. Make it organic. Get rid of the pesticides. Get rid of the fluoride. Use some clean water. Make some organic coffee. Grind it fresh. Get fresh roasted coffee because it's a lot higher in antioxidants. If the coffee beans have been sitting more than a month, it's already losing its quality. Grind it fresh and then make it, but only after you've had your water. Hydrate first because it's a diuretic. If you drink coffee, then drink water, you just piss it all out.
Yeah. So
good
for
shit.
The people, great shit, no shit.
Yeah.
So for the people out there watching, listening, how can they find you and your products?
Tyler Tolman, Tyler Tolman, tylertolman.com, or healthyself.co. You can just look up Tyler Tolman and anything you want. Tyler Tolman colon cleanse, Tyler Tolman psoriasis, Tyler Tolman heart disease, Tyler Tolman, and I'll have a video that pops up that's like, here's what you do for candida, here's what you do for constipation, here's what you do for skin conditions, here's what you do if you have bad eyesight, here's what you do for tinnitus, here's what you do for cancer. So that's it. You can find me, you can access all my information for free, or you can join my tribe. It's like $40 a month, and that's podcasts, and it's a coaching platform and app that keeps you on track and all that kind of good stuff. If you want to spend thousands of dollars to learn how to be immortal, you can come to Bali and I'll teach you how to do that too.
And live for 1,000 years.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching, listening, Tyler and I are on a mission to rapidly grow and expand human potential. So if you guys got something out of this today, even the smallest bit of a knowledge bomb or information or some insights into how to improve your life, we'd love that you help us out by helping you out and share this to your friends, family, and also tag anyone you think needs to listen to this. That would be massively helpful for both of us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Tyler, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.